Alright guys, Hatchcomic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major roster developments last night with what the teams towards the bottom end of the CDL are seemingly cooking up. Cloud9 formed on paper last year, a pretty decent team. That did not turn out to be the case when they really hit the server last season, and this year, apparently it's going to only get even worse. Of all the teams in the league, rumour has it last night, Cloud9 have the lowest budget of anyone, but not just that, but apparently the lowest budget in the history of the Call of Duty League. If you want to play for this team next season, you are going to be having to pick up shifts on the side. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to get into today. Just a couple of things, because we did talk about a lot of these Halo guys in recent days. Maybe they're transitioning to Call of Duty. Maybe some of them are. Maybe some of them aren't. Renegade and of course the OpTic Halo guys getting ready for their run to the Halo World Championship, which is going to begin rather shortly. They're playing a little tournament here just to kind of get ready for it. They played against Envoy, went to a Game 7. They took the Slayer. They got the job done. So Fummel's pretty happy about that. They play the winners finals today and the rest of the tournament today as they continue to get ready for the World Championship. The other thing I wanted to mention was this. So if you guys saw the other day, Josh, who has worked with Thieves for a long time, he's been the key driving force behind the content of their COD team. He put this out on the 4th of September, seemingly getting ready for the new year, and then a few days later he said that he'd been fired, and this came alongside all of that nade shot related drama as we saw a few days ago. Then last night he said, oh well, okay, a couple of days ago now, contract signed, right, here we go again, the contract signed gifts coming through. So it's like, okay, where's he going? Has he got a spot with another team as a content guy? And hopefully in due course, I'm sure that will be the case as well. But he's actually on the payroll for Kenny's family's food truck. And I thought this was like really wholesome when I saw this yesterday. So here he is in the food truck and the block burners. If you guys haven't heard about this before, Kenny's parents, they put together this food truck with, you know, inspired cuisines, let's say, from their heritage. And Josh is going to be picking up some shifts with them. And like maybe some of the Cloud9 boys next year are going to have to do something similar, and we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I thought this is pretty cool to see. The best chef in Texas will be serving food all day, he says, and I just thought this is really nice. Kenny says, got my boy on the payroll. So look, it's obviously interesting timing, isn't it? Just because Kenny has, we think, joined the Thieves, or is about to join the Thieves again, potentially for the upcoming year. Josh was on the Thieves, they were friends there before, so, you know, there's probably something in that anyway. Now, if you guys are in Texas, you want to check this out, I think they're mainly around the Fort Worth area. They're not in the same place all the time. Kenny says if you follow them on Instagram, they give updates and all that. So, yeah, hopefully next time we're in Texas, I can check this out. I thought it was just cool to see this as well, right? This is a little time lapse, really, of them working here. Kenny's obviously putting in some work too in the off season. So I thought this is all really wholesome, actually. And yeah, wishing all these guys the best. So that's what some of these C9 players might need to look to do, because let's get into it, right? Because last night, Ronnie says this: what is going on with Cloud9? Recent rumours have suggested they could have not just the smallest budget in the league, but the smallest budget in the history of the CDL. And just before we get into this, I guess we should kind of discuss why this is the case, because New York Subliners were a great organisation. Now, yeah, they had their problems, there was some drama there, but they were an important part of the Call of Duty League pretty much since its inception, right? They came along year one, they spent a lot of money, they formed some pretty good teams, they won an event at the end of that season, they won their own home series, it was online, but they won it. The following year, Clayster came along, in due course, Crimsix came along as well, and, you know, the Cold War season, they weren't great, but they brought in HyDra to the league, they had Clay in the league as well. They made a finals, I think it was the Major 3 finals they made that year. Yeah, it was online, but New York was still a pretty solid team in Cold War. The following year in Vanguards, look, it wasn't great initially, right? They had the absolute disaster class of Clay, Krim, like Neptune and HyDra, which on paper sounds pretty spectacular, but, you know, sometimes the talent might be good, the winning mentality might be good, but the team just doesn't work from a chemistry perspective. They made a few changes, but eventually Kismet came on the scene. We know how that duo worked out with HyDra in due course. At the end of the year with Paul X on the team, with Krim still there, they were really good. They won the Pram. They came second of their home event. They made it to the World Championship. You know, they had a stellar run and they were a really great part. I mean, they hosted that event in New York, right? There was the New York event at the King's Theatre, whatever it was. That was a spectacular event. Maybe some of you guys went to it. I didn't go, but just the theatre it was in, the walkout with Kremp and all that, like the absolute peak entertainment in COD. At the time, and New York were a big part of that. And they made good content, they did some other things that were good, and then they kicked on from that by winning the World Championship in Modern Warfare 2 with the team they had then. Yeah, Modern Warfare 3 didn't quite go to plan as much, but they still won an event. So basically every single year of the league, New York were a force to be reckoned with in the CDL. Last year, though, they became Cloud9 New York. Now, why did this happen is a good question. To my understanding, my theory anyway on this, is that a large part of this is to do with the Esports World Cup. Many of these organisations, they get paid pretty handsomely to be part of the Esports World Cup, and the more, let's say, components of it that they compete in, the better they do financially, right? So there is an incentive, and also just the better they do in terms of performance at the tournament. So there is a big incentive for the teams who are part of the World Cup, part of that like Esports World Cup partner program, to be in as many esports as possible. So from Cloud9's perspective, my understanding of this is that they want to be part of the World Cup, they want to be part of the partner program, they want a team to represent them there for multiple reasons, get the points on the boards, get more prize money, whatever. They might even get better rewarded by the World Cup just because they enter more things, regardless of how well they even do. So it appears to me that their whole point right now of being in the league is just so they can compete at the World Cup. I don't think Cloud9 really care at all about the competitiveness of their team during the regular CDL season. I think all they care about is the end of the year. And it is a shame that New York Subliners have effectively died for this. Now, to many who, look, there are some esports where Cloud9 are actually relatively competitive. There are some where they take this approach. I don't understand why, if the rumour is true that Falcons were going to pay a lot of money to Cloud9 to buy Sib out of the contract just for the World Cup, why that didn't happen, because yeah, I simply don't understand it if that was actually true. But this is what the article suggests. Cloud9 is an organisation many were excited to be joining, and I think this is the other thing. There's been talk about some other esports organisations coming in, the likes of maybe a TSM over the last few years. Cloud9 on paper, when they elected to join, it was like, okay, cool, we've got another, on paper, big organisation coming into the league. They might want to be competitive. But the remarkable thing is that if we want more organisations that are going to be competitive, the reality is we might be looking at Twisted Minds and Alcatia Esports, right? The Saudi teams with the bag, because it seems like these other organisations, now Cloud9 historically have been like this anyway, so it might not be a massive surprise. But still, as Ronnie says, many were excited for Cloud9 to join, having been a proven winning team in other esports, HyDra, Kismet, etc. once home to this organisation, and last year they formed what was on paper a pretty decent team, right? They built it around Sib. And yeah, of course, last year it didn't work out, but, you know, you could see the vision to some extent with last year's team. It didn't turn out to be very good, but it is what it is. Fast forward to this year, the situation has not improved greatly, because a couple of weeks ago we saw Kremp sign that contract, and initially I thought, okay, maybe they're keeping him on Cloud9, building around him. Turns out he's going to Rocco, we think, or to G2 with Estriel, maybe Skies +1. We'll see what they decide to cook up over there. But sources have indicated Cloud9 is likely to have the lowest budget in the history of the CDL when it comes to assembling a roster. Just a few weeks ago, they went over a complete overhaul. They still have assistant coach Arian on the staff. Many would question why anyone would want to join the CDL under these circumstances, but the business side of things, while not appealing to fans, makes sense. It's possible that they can basically just cash in revenue through microtransactions. This is also the problem, by the way, with franchise esports and the idea of no promotion relegation, because if you have no money and you simply do not care, you own the spot and you pay some money to the league to maintain the spot every year, you pay your players as little as you possibly can, you will never pay for a buyout, your intention is just to cash in on microtransactions and make up the difference at the Esports World Cup with the prize money there. That is an organisation that frankly deserves to get relegated from the league. In a normal, promotion relegation, at least it's normal for us in Europe, in that kind of circumstance, C9 would not be able to do this because they would be relegated to a team that tried harder in the second division. That is not the case here, right? Like, these guys aren't going anywhere if they don't want to, effectively. And people would argue, okay, is it worse than Paris, right? Like, is it lower than what Paris Legion were cooking up all those years ago? And Ronnie says, yeah. Now, there is a key reason for this, is that when Paris are around, there used to be a minimum salary. It was 50, 55k, something in that kind of ballpark. It went up with inflation, I think, every couple of years. But the minimum salary was removed a couple of years ago. I think going into the Modern Warfare 3 season, the question, I guess, was to some degree why. But also, I don't think many of us thought it would really matter, right? It was like, well, okay, the minimum salary is 50k, but probably the teams are going to pay the players that anyway, and state minimums mean that, you know, it can't be that far off that really regardless. So it didn't really seem to change all that much. But according to Methods last night, the poverty budget is so extreme that he's heard they want to offer 30k a player. As he says, wow, I love Hex. That's a ninth of my Boston salary. Now, I guess a quick aside just for that, right? Like, you know, I'm glad that Ziddy did well when he was on Boston. He was a good player for Boston. But if Boston were paying him $270,000, I think that kind of goes to show the slight issue with where and I think Ziddy would probably admit this himself, with where the franchises were and what they were paying, and maybe the reason why Boston today has taken a slightly different approach, right? A couple of years ago, I don't know, the money that was flying around was pretty outrageous, and if you think about the return that these organizations were getting on those players, you know, maybe it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. But still, 30k a player is outrageously low. As I say, the only reason why they can get away with this is because they are one of the franchises, and there is no one else that you could do anything about. Now, just to keep in mind, you know, let's say they are offering $30,000 per player. Now, for those of us in the UK, $30,000, it's probably like £23,000, which would be, I think, a minimum salary in the UK. And if you guys don't know anything about UK salaries versus the US, our salaries are nowhere near what people are getting paid in the States. So, I mean, that would be like that is a horrific salary for the US. Like, there's no, I don't know, there's no other way to look at it, right? I can't imagine that's particularly livable in most places. So maybe in Texas you can get away with it, I don't know. But that's what Zinni says, that they're going to offer like $30,000 a player effectively because they can. And what are you going to do? Not take the offer that's on the table, right? But I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And also it shows that the league is still in a strange spot where you've got, I mean, Cellium is getting paid 30k every fortnight, every 2 weeks, right? Like, I mean, let's just put this into context real quick. Falcons, we think, are paying Cellium the yearly salary of a Cloud9 player every, like, 3 league matches. Cellium gets paid that. And, well, yeah, so it's that discrepancy is kind of wild, and I don't really know what it means for the players that are going to get offered this deal. I mean, look, I guess it's a CDL offer. You take it and you try and leave as soon as possible to go to a better team. It's never going to work out well for Cloud9 because all of their players are just going to be stat padding to try and get on a better team. And maybe it could be good for the fans in the sense that those players are going to have to stream a lot. There's no doubt about that, right? So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about this in the comments below? Because I thought that was pretty remarkable if those numbers are true. And there's still plenty of notable free agents out there, but there's a reason why, like, all of these guys will be waiting for Ravens to get bought out by Space Station and go to what appears to be a pretty respectable organization there. If you're a Halo guy, you want to come to COD, are you going to take a Cloud9 offer for like less than minimum wage or like minimum wage or whatever? Or are you going to play challenges and bet on yourself and try and get to a better team? So I thought this was all pretty crazy. Very much intrigued to your thoughts as ever on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.